Good evening, everyone. We'll call the Tuesday, August 19th meeting of the ASD School Board to order. Time is 6 o'clock p.m. on the dot. We will have our roll call. I note members Higgins, Lessons, Donley, Student Representative Madison, myself, Member Jacobs, Member Wilson, Member Holloman, and then Member Bellamy is online with us, so we are all in attendance. Madison, if you would please lead us in the flag salute and then read the land acknowledgement. Thank you.
We acknowledge that we gather here today on the traditional lands of the Dena'ina people of the Upper Cook Inlet. For thousands of years, the Dena'ina people have been and continue to be the stewards of this land. ASD is committed to diversity and inclusion, and it is with honor and respect that we recognize all Indigenous people who live and learn in our community.
Thank you, Student Representative Madison. We want to welcome you to our meeting and thank you for attending and supporting the work of the Anchorage School District and this board. The board thanks our students, parents, teachers, staff, school business partners, and the entire community for your investment in our district with your time, your talent, and your tax dollars. With that said, we have an agenda in front of us. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as drafted?
Move to approve the agenda as drafted.
By Made by Member Holloman, seconded by Member Wilson. Is there any objection to approving the agenda as drafted? Hearing or seeing none, we have an agenda. Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to B1, our reports. Madison, student representative report is first. The floor is yours.
All right, thank you. So, most importantly, coming back from summer, a lot of our students have been very excited and proud. I know at my school, I think we welcomed about 200 new students, 200 new freshmen. That's really great. Our new student orientations across the district have been moving and going. But most importantly, in our region right now, is what's happening is OSOG. So if you don't know what that is, I'm a part of my student government, but there are many other student governments across the state. So we meet up at our state conferences in the fall and the spring, and we call it the Alaska Association of Student Governments. But lucky enough, our region in Anchorage is going to be hosting the fall conference that's happening for this year. And the theme of the conference is called Anchoring New Change. And it's a really sweet thing because we talked about how we wanted to try and include more schools, especially schools from rural areas, at least in our district, and also spread that message across the state. But of course, we say we're anchoring it because we're Anchorage. So we tried to be a little clever with that. And it's really cute because our logo kind of goes with it being Anchorage and having pride in our city like that. It's going to be hosted on October 23rd through 25th, and it will be Alaska Pacific University, also known as APU. Now, it's been 10 years since the last time ASD has hosted an OSOG conference, so that's going to be a really great achievement for us to be able to complete. And the most important thing is that I want to let know any student government advisors or current student government students and members if you're interested in attending this fall conference here in Anchorage or you're interested in attending our spring conference, which will be in Juneau, to please contact my advisor because we can help you get in touch so that way you can get some assistance for joining, especially if you're trying to become a member. That's our most important thing is getting students involved with this organization. Her email can be found at Lewis_Danielle at ASDK12.org, and from there we can help you. But that's a really great thing happening with our students in the district is that the state's meeting up here in Anchorage, and hopefully our conference will go really great. And I myself, because I'm the president of the ASD Student Advisory Board, my other board members, our secretary, vice president, and PR rep will also be the registrars for this conference. So there'll be a lot of work on our hands, but it's going to go great. And I'm hoping that Anchorage gets the recognition that it deserves. And another important thing is that with the new district policy referring to cell phones for our schools, So at least I know for Eagle River High School, we are the only high school right now that is doing an away all day policy for our phones. So typically with this district policy, this means that high schools can still have their phones during passing and lunch. But at our school, we just decided that we are not doing that and we're completely taking away phones, just as like middle schools and elementary schools are doing right now. There's a lot of mixed feelings on it, but I will say after the first few days of implementing it, we do have medical exemptions for people who need their devices for such, and our office has implemented ways for you to contact your parents or loved ones. So it has been working for us, but I will say it's a lot different than other high schools in our district right now, and it does stand out. But other than that, I can tell that many students are excited about fall sports starting up in our region, and I know that drama debate and forensics is going to be starting on the 30th, which is an academic activity. But other than that, Anchorage students have been excited to start the new year, and hopefully we can make a lot of change. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll open up to questions for our student representative. Seeing none, I'm going to jump in really quick and ask, Madison, is the Eagle River representation group at the SAB considering bringing a resolution forward regarding the campus-specific cell phone policy you're seeing in Eagle River?
Can I ask a follow-up question to that? So are you referring to like bringing a resolution for our current policy to be referred to like the district, basically?
Yeah, if there's any interest from the Eagle River representation on the SAB to change Eagle River's site-specific policy.
Yeah, so I know at least my advisor, she's talked a bit about how this could look like at different other ASD schools that could follow Eagle River's way of having an away all day policy. I know we're the only ones doing it right now, but it's very likely that we could bring forward a resolution to try and do the same policy at other schools. As of right now, it's not a plan, but it is possible.
Yeah, thank you for that. Seeing no other questions for our student representative, thank you, Madison, for your reports. Item B2 is our military reports. I believe Colonel Hanson's with us tonight. Welcome, sir. Always great to see you. Welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you and good evening. Anchorage School District School Board members. Good to see the familiar faces again. And I want to say thanks for allowing me to provide remarks. President Jacobs, Superintendent Bryant, good to see you all again, and to the ASD staff. My name is Colonel Dustin Hanson. I'm the Mission Support Group Commander on Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, and I'm also the primary school liaison, along with a small team for our military-connected students. Again, I want to express welcome to the new school year, and I anticipate continuing our healthy partnership with the school district as we embrace wins and challenges that promise to be held for these next 10 months. This year, JBER is home to over 1,600 students. We have about 650 students that are attending off-base schools, roughly 280 students, military-connected students, going to high school, about 380 students going to middle school, and about 950 students on base, attending our 3 elementary schools on base there. These numbers just simply reinforce the importance of fostering a good, healthy relationship with Team ASD. Speaking of good relationships, over this past summer, JBER organized a meeting with our home instructed community, basically who are the homeschoolers on base. We wanted to listen and learn what their challenges were and what their thoughts were. And we learned quite a bit, and we're going to continue having probably about a monthly home instructed community meeting. One thing that I learned was that the families expressed gratitude for Anchorage School District's Frontier Charter School and the support that it has provided. There's a lot of new home instructed families, young ones, that don't know how to navigate this course, and so they expressed their appreciation for the support they received from Frontier Charter School. There was also some other parents that expressed their appreciation for local schools in terms of the support that they provided through programs, extracurriculars to these home instructed families. This reinforces a memorandum that came out of from Secretary of Defense Hegseth. The memorandum came out on May 15th, and it's titled Homeschooling Support for Military Connected Students. Inside this memorandum, there is a directive to look at department-wide support for homeschooling military-connected families. Within this memorandum, and I can provide a copy to the team here, it states that the department will uphold the directive referencing Executive Order 14191 to improve the education, the well-being, and future successes of military-connected students, supporting parents in choosing the best educational options for their children, ensuring that military-connected families receive strong educational support, maintaining morale and readiness, reinforcing the overall stability and the effectiveness of our military communities. And I think that expresses exactly the kind of partnership and relationship that we have with ASD here. So again, I want to say thank you for the support that you have provided this past year, and I look forward to the partnership we have this year. Finally, speaking of presidents, I want to say August 15th was a fantastic day. Last Friday, we hosted President Trump and President Putin on JBER. I want to say that I was in tight communication with the events leading up to this event with Mr. Jim Anderson as we were planning the bus routes and understanding what was and what was not going to be affected. For the most part, throughout the week, and it turned out very dynamic on Friday, but I want to express that the patience and the grace that the schools and the principals and the staff had as what we had planned to be a relatively non-impactful event for bus routes turned to be extremely impactful right when schools were getting released as President Putin decided to transit from one part of the base to the National Cemetery to lay some wreaths on some of the stones there in the cemetery. And so that was a last minute change, and that certainly impacted the buses. Mr. Jim Anderson, I had him on speed dial to provide as much information as we can as we started having school buses just getting stopped, right? Because we were just simply providing security along this route. So I'm not even concerned about winter weather coming up because I have Mr. Jim Anderson and the entire bus team ready to go for winter weather. But that was a good practice over this past Friday. JBER learned a lot. I say we walked away from this Alaska summit with smiles and cheers as JBER basically pulled off what felt like an air show within 6 days. It was it was a Herculean effort. And I would say, at least the team that helped put it together, they were very proud of what they did. With that, I stand by for any questions as I look forward to a new school year with you all.
Thank you, Colonel. Just note before we see if there's any questions that you are welcome to coordinate with Mr. Anderson. However, you cannot have him. We need him here.
Yeah.
Are there questions for the Colonel from the board? Member listens.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. Congratulations on the successful logistics on a complex day. I was talking with a parent whose son should by at this point out the door enlisting in the program that he has chosen in the armed services. I'm just curious, we talk about post-graduation plans. Do you have a sense of how many, or do we have a sense of how many of our students or graduates from this past year are choosing enlistment? And when we talk about employment, we talk about enrollment, and we talk about enlistment and I'm just curious what our baseline is for that sort of possibility.
I'm confident that I can reach out to the recruiting office locally and find out those numbers exactly. Member lessons. Be happy to share that with you. Are you looking at enlisted and officer as well?
I don't know enough to ask a nuanced question. So that sounds like a great area to pursue.
If they're joining the military, I will provide that information for you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Lessons. Member Wilson.
I just wanted to add to that. I don't know if you have access to National Guard numbers as well, but I think incorporating that information would be beneficial as well.
Yeah, I think yes, ma'am. A holistic picture, total force integration, who's going into it. We can do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Seeing no other questions from the board, Colonel, thank you so much for being here and for your report.
Thank you.
Okay, item B3, our board conference and committee reports. I'll note that our board committees have not met since the school year started. Is there any board committee chair who wishes to speak at this time? And I will note for our record that the board committees will meet on the 28th, around midday. Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Member Bellamy.
Sorry, I'm not a committee chair, but I would like to report on AASB activities that are coming up here real quick, if I might.
Please do.
So, just for the benefit of our board members, for your planning purposes, in October 20, we have the fall events for AASB. The resolutions, if you have any that you want us to consider, we have to get them in by October 15th. Um, And then we have the executive assistance training that's coming up on the 9th of September. And then our two-day fall boardsmanship academy will follow the executive assistance training, and that will be both of those will be at the Marriott. And we are looking for presenters for our annual statewide conference. Um, so I would like to invite some of our wonderful, innovative staff to put in proposals for those. And that's going to be held this year at the Egan. And finally, coming up real quick in a couple of weeks is our statewide charter school uh, academy. And I'm not sure where that's going to be held. Usually it's at KCC, but I'll have to check on that. But we usually have quite a number of our charter schools that participate in that academy. If you need more information, just send me an email or a text. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. All right, seeing no other reports, we'll move on to item C1, guardrail number 3. Superintendent will not allow unsatisfactory employee performance to go unidentified or unaddressed. We don't have our typical introduction because this is a guardrail and this is the first time we are actively monitoring this work. Dr. Bryant, would you be willing to open maybe with an introduction as to what our guardrails are for members of the community who are tuning into the first time? Thank you.
Absolutely, Mr. President. So every board meeting, the board is engaged in some form of goal monitoring, and typically these focus on our academic outcomes. We have a reading goal, we have a math goal, and we have a college, career, and life readiness goal. So we as a school board and administration focus on this for a lot of time during our meetings. So what we're doing now is taking it to the next level, because in addition to the board goals, the board has also set guardrails, which aren't specifically about the actions of the students or about what they're learning, but they reflect the values of the community that the board gathered through a very robust process several years ago. So we want to make it a regular practice to keep the board up to speed in terms of progress on the guardrails. Tonight's guardrail is on guardrail 3, which is that the superintendent will not allow unsatisfactory employee performance to go unidentified or unaddressed. And years ago, the board administration landed on measuring this through teacher evaluation data, as well as participation in the training for evaluators, both those who are certificated and those who are classified. And through those metrics, we're able to use that as a proxy for progress towards the board's guardrail and community's value. So today we'll be happy to answer questions from board members about this guardrail if you have any. But of course, really the heart of goal monitoring is on the academics. The guardrails support that. So that said, I'll open it up if there are any questions for board members. This is our leadership team.
Thank you, Dr. Bryant. So the board has had this report now, has a chance to review. Are there board members who have questions at this point? Member Bellamy.
I do. Sorry. Thank you. I really do appreciate the report. Because there were things in the report that even I didn't know of, and I thought I kind of knew almost everything. But I broke my questions out into bargaining groups, and not to be nitty gritty and not to get in the weeds. But I guess if somebody on the panel, and I can't see who's there, but I can almost guess, but if somebody on the panel can just give an overview of start with like AEA and kind of talk about what what that what are the and take AEA, then move on to another group and just talk about what are the areas, what are we seeing, what are we addressing, and how are we addressing, what are we seeing in terms of people who need support, how are we supporting them, and what the trainings, talk a little bit about the various trainings.
Member Bellamy, this is Marty Lang. I'll start. For the record, I'm the Chief Human Resource Officer. And just to give you a sense of who else is up here, I'm joined by Dr. Kirsten Johnson. She's the Deputy Chief of Schools. For the public, she supervises all of our senior directors who work directly with our principals in the schools to support these efforts. Peggy Rankin is here as well. She's the Senior Director of Talent Management. She has really, along with her team, been instrumental in supporting our classified supervisors and classified evaluation. And then we're also joined with by Mandy Clark, who is the Director of Principal Pipeline and Leadership Development. And she has really picked up the mantle over this last year and been side by side with our principals at General Leadership, training them around the Danielson framework, which is the evaluation tool that we use with our AEA members, with our teachers in classrooms. And so I think I'll pass it to her to start with some of those questions specific to some of the training that she's done with principals around the framework over the last year and some of the trends that we have seen from the evaluation data.
Sure. Thank you. So some of the training that we've done with our principals with APA is that last year we provided 4 different opportunities every month for principals to be able to learn about the Danielson framework, calibrate their evaluation or their observations with each other, and be able to really work and hone in their skills on teacher observations and the evaluation. This year, we're looking at moving more towards a tiered model where we're going to be looking at principals that have had a lot of experience doing evaluations and observations and providing differentiated supports to those principals that have been around for a while and those principals that are brand new and need more support in working and learning about the observation and evaluation tool. So there was some questions about AEA and what areas of weakness that we see most frequently linked to unsatisfactory or basic ratings. And some of those components that we see that resulted in plans of growth or plans of improvement for our teachers are in the area of 2A, creating an environment of respect and rapport, 2D, managing student behaviors, 3A, communicating with students, 3C, engaging students in learning, and 4F, showing professionalism. And we really work with principals to be able to help address and coach our teachers in making improvements in these areas. And we provide a lot of additional supports for our teachers who show that they need some additional learning or some additional supports to be able to make improvement. And that's through focused professional development, through learning about different engagement strategies in specific content areas, participating in the mentoring program, receiving supports through our professional learning teacher experts, and then receiving additional coaching and professional development opportunities. So we do track, one of the questions that was asked was about have we tracked teachers that have received basic ratings and have they improved? And do they wind up moving from a plan of growth to a proficiency model, or do they wind up moving to a plan of improvement? And just this last year, we were able to track that we had 12 teachers that were placed in a plan of growth. That means that they received 2 basics on their evaluation based on the preponderance of evidence through different observations. And 10 of those 12 teachers progressed off of the plan of growth onto a proficiency evaluation. And what we found over time is that teachers who have been able to progress off of a plan of improvement or a plan of growth wind up not ever going back on that plan of growth or plan of improvement. So they wind up sustaining that improvement over time.
Thank you. That's great. At what point does a plan of growth become a plan for improvement? Is that like a contractual thing?
In the negotiated agreement with the Anchorage Education Association, there is an article that is specific to evaluation that outlines some of what's in state statute and then some of what's been worked out between the district and the association over time in terms of what our evaluation cycle looks like and how we address performance concerns specifically. There's also a follow-on document. There's actually a committee as well, a joint committee with the district and the association that meets annually, talks about evaluation issues, and works on the certified educator evaluation document, also known as the SEED. I had to think for a second what it actually was in its full form, but so yeah, there is a lot of discussion around that. There is a progression that's kind of outlined through that, and a number of different ways that folks can travel. What we see in most instances is as these things are noted, folks lean into that. They take the supports that are available to them, whether that's mentoring, support from their principal, additional resources, and they work hard to grow in those areas and to become proficient on their evaluations, as Mandy outlined.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Bellamy. A follow-up question regarding that discussion, which I didn't send in advance because it didn't occur to me until just a moment ago. I don't see the data on here that breaks down of the educators with one unsatisfactory rating, a basic rating, or one rating that's below proficient by their tenure in the district. Do we see that first-year teachers make up a significant portion of these populations? And I'm wondering if there's any intersection between that potential link and then we have a significant educator retention challenge in our state. And so do those two data points correlate at all?
Yeah, when we look at, so let me back up and say that, I think the board and the administration and, most of our employees share the same goal, and that is to show up to work every day, to be professionals, to be proficient in the way that they serve students and advance the mission and goals of the district. And the good news, the really good news is that the majority do. And, every time I walk into a school or a department, I am just taken aback by the level of professionalism and the dedicated, hardworking employees that we have in schools. Now, that said, there are some that struggle in certain areas to be proficient. And of those numbers that are in this report, we don't break that out by tenured and non-tenured or by number of years of experience. But I can say from working, both on the instructional side and now with this data on the HR side, that the majority of those folks are in their first couple of years with the district. So they're generally new to district employees. Oftentimes they're new to profession employees. They may be folks who, since 2020, we've hired a lot of folks through alternative pathways. So they may be on an emergency cert. So, they haven't yet acclimated to, the district environment and some frankly need some additional support in order to get to that proficiency status.
Thank you for that. Are there other board member questions? Member Holloman.
And this isn't quite so much a question about what we do, but something that was brought to my attention quite some time ago by a Council of Great City Schools member that was here for one of our internal audits, that we should consider separating anything with potential job action from professional development. And that one of the complications they saw is that Danielson really is about professional development and getting better. And I'll say from when I was being evaluated, on the years that you were doing a project-based evaluation, you didn't really want to have a project that was all that complicated. You didn't want to overreach because you get going in the year, other things happen, things come up. What happens if you lay out a project and say, I'm going to make this happen as part of my evaluation, and you fall short. You don't want to wind up on a plan of improvement or even a plan of growth. You want to finish, even if it's unsuccessful. And so I know a number of people, and I would never do this, but some people would choose a project they'd actually already completed so that you could be assured that you would be able to complete your project and have a good evaluation. Just one strategy. But the other side of this too is that when there was potential, say for a plan of improvement or something that could lead to termination, that would immediately pull the principal out of it and create a team from HR, from the bargaining unit, from the subject area, if it was a classroom teacher, to reevaluate that teacher independent of the principal or assistant principal had done the initial evaluation. I think we've all seen situations where an evaluator and an evaluee basically begin to go at it head to head, and it becomes a win or lose situation for everybody that's really not productive. I know this is not a simple change, and it would be a major project, but I'm wondering if that's on anybody's burner to consider. That ideally we want our teachers to be able to go into evaluation just trying to get better at something they're weak at, and yet admitting that you have a weakness potentially looks bad on an evaluation, which is tied to job security. So the degree to which we could isolate those from each other, because we still do want to have reviews, plans for improvement, and termination if people don't come up to speed where they need to be. But ideally, we also want people to go into the evaluation process, particularly when they're looking at projects, with the idea that they're going to try to grow as much as they possibly can, but not put themselves at risk if they fall short. So I'm just wondering if any of this has come up or is in planning or under consideration. Thank you.
So one of the things there has been, I think, pretty universal agreement between principals, supervisors, teachers since we adopted Danielson is that it's a pretty good definition of what good teaching looks like. Both the art and science of it. It's got both the on-stage and off-stage domains. It's got the 22 different components. Each of those components have the bulleted list of critical attributes of what it looks like, when it's exemplary, proficient, basic, unsatisfactory. It's a robust definition of the complexity of teaching. What gets challenging is when we use that as an evaluation tool sometimes, because I don't disagree with you that sometimes in that evaluation conversation, we lose the robust focus on really, how do we grow in these areas? It is also a great professional development tool. And I think we are operating at our best when we also use it that way. There is a safeguard that is built in for teachers. They can always request to have an alternative evaluator from outside of the building come in and do an additional observation if they feel like their principal is maybe not accurately scoring them, or as you described, maybe they just haven't seen eye to eye on a lot of things. So we have that built in. We haven't really at this time discussed going that next step further, which would be to create a secondary review panel. Something we can certainly talk about and explore, but we aren't actively discussing that at this time.
Thank you, Member Holloman. Seeing no other questions on this monitoring report for our guardrail number 3, Dr. Bryant, I want to thank you and the team for preparing for this conversation today. I know it's the first time we've done it since we've begun our goal monitoring and our work with the council, and so appreciate the leverage to be able to do that with you guys tonight. All right. Move on to item D, public comment. want to welcome everyone to our first opportunity for public comment this evening. The board has set aside a 1 hour time slot. At the beginning of our meetings, during public comment, the board will not answer questions or engage in conversation with members of the public. The school board welcomes the public to observe and contribute to our meetings in structured and civil ways. We do that via the Roberts Rules of Order. Some guidelines that are included in those rules are: do not attack a member or speaker's motives. Please, no profanity or foul language. Please refrain from disturbing our meeting. No cheering, applause, outbursts. If you have handouts, you may share them with Ms. Sullivan, who's seated to my left. As president of the board, I will enforce these rules of civility and decorum. And so I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. I have just a few testifiers. There it is. Perfect. All right. Our first speaker is Francis McLaughlin. Welcome, Francis. You have 3 minutes. Please begin when you're ready.
Good evening. Thank you, members of the board, the superintendent and program directors. Thank you especially to Mr. Gustafson, who responded very promptly to an email that I'd sent. I'd also like to introduce my partner in our comments.
Elizabeth Milliken.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm a father, dad. I have 2 daughters in Mandarin immersion. My 6th grader is a student at Begich Middle School, and my 4th grader is a student at Scenic Park Elementary. I'm very grateful to the school board and to the school administration for supporting language immersion programs. I'm very happy to say that my family loves both of our schools, and we would not go anywhere else. We're so pleased with Begich and with Scenic Park. We love those schools. In my younger daughter's class, all 36 of the Chinese immersion 3rd graders from last year returned to 4th grade this year. We have 100% early registration in this class, or we did back in March, and we didn't lose anyone from last year's class. The result, I believe that this is the result of a successful language immersion program, and it shows how much that it means to families. Thank you.
Good evening, President Jacobs, members of the school board, Superintendent Bryant, and ASD leadership. I'll likely get caught up, but I'm going to get it a go. My name is Elizabeth Milliken, and I'm the proud parent of a 4th grader in Scenic Park's Chinese immersion program, and also the proud parent of a 4-year-old whose biggest complaint in life is she has to wait a whole nother year to join her big brother in Chinese immersion. I first want to thank the school board and the district for your continued commitment to language immersion. These programs are a vital part of our city's educational landscape. They support academic achievement and prepare students to thrive in a multilingual, multicultural world. Your leadership in sustaining these opportunities is deeply appreciated. The Chinese immersion program at Scenic Park Elementary is a powerful example of what's possible when academic rigor, cultural learning, and community engagement come together. Families are proud of this program, and it reflects the best of ASD's innovation. We also recognize the district is navigating a complex environment, tight budget, staffing shortages, and evolving student needs. These are not easy challenges, and we appreciate the thoughtful, student-centered approach the board and administration are taking. In the spirit, we encourage continued support of school-level decision-making that prioritizes equity and student outcomes. In immersion classrooms where class sizes are 35 or more students, this creates real barriers to learning. We know these are difficult trade-offs, but we also know that when resources are allocated equitably and proactively, it not only improves student learning, but it also supports teacher retention by creating more manageable and sustainable teaching environments. Assuming I'm out of time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony, for being with us tonight. Our next speaker is Derek White. Welcome. You have 3 minutes. Please begin when you're ready.
Right. Good evening, board members. My name is Derek White, and I am the father of a student at Gladyswood Elementary. My topic of discussion for tonight is the change with the schedule. I've got a letter here. It's basically about the safety. Because when we talk about school schedules, we're really talking about whether our children arrive at school rested, alert, and safe. The current start times put our youngest learners at the greatest risk. On Mondays, they start at 9 a.m., but Tuesday through Friday, they're forced an hour earlier at 8 a.m. That constant shift is unhealthy, creating what doctors call social jet lag, disrupting their sleep cycles, weakening their focus, and hurting their growth. It's the opposite of what pediatric sleep research recommends, and it puts elementary children in a harder position than middle or high school students. And here in Alaska, as you know, it's not just about health, it's about the survival in our conditions. And so 4 days a week, children young as 5 are now waiting for buses in the pitch dark on icy streets during the coldest parts of the morning. Our neighborhoods also don't have enough lighting. They don't have enough sidewalks or safe pedestrian crossings. And as many of you know, cars don't really even slow down when you do have those things. And I think it's really unfair expecting our youngest and smallest children to navigate that environment in dark and just unsafe and irresponsible conditions. This schedule also places a disproportionate burden on children with special needs, including those on the spectrum with ADHD and other learning disabilities. These students thrive on consistent routines, adequate rest, and shifting these wake-up times is cutting into their sleep, and it makes it harder for them to regulate their emotions, stay focused, and succeed in the classroom. For many families, mornings are already a challenge. These new hours magnify that stress, creating more meltdowns, more absences, and more barriers to learning instead of supporting them. This change works directly against their needs. Finally, this decision doesn't consider the strain it puts on families. Earlier starts means new child care costs, parents missing work or shifting schedules, and staff forced into earlier, more hazardous commutes. This is Alaska. It's not the lower 48. We have extreme winters, long periods of darkness, and an economy built on early shift jobs. It's not a one-size-fits-all schedule that works here. I urge you all to reconsider the schedule for everything I just stated. And I'm not sure if any of the here have to.
Mr. White, you've used. Thank you for your testimony. Our next speaker is Corey Ace. Welcome. You have 3 minutes. Please begin when you're ready.
Dear President Jacobs, school board members, it was inspiring to see Alaskans from across the state come together, students, parents, educators, school board members, business leaders, and community members alike. It was equally powerful to see our legislators unite to override the governor's veto of HB 57, not once, but twice. I want to thank those legislators for standing up for all our students and families. The override vote was a clear message. Alaskans will continue to support all students, not just some students. Alaskans will support every public school, neighborhood schools, charter schools, and correspondence programs, all public school options. Every student deserves support no matter where they go to school. I also want to thank the Anchorage School Board and Dr. Bryant for adding additional teacher positions at your last board meeting. Even with this momentum, we still have significant challenges. The most important reforms to focus on include more parent involvement, small class sizes, not smaller, small class sizes, and a certificated teacher in every classroom. Right now, that's not the case. Across the district, class sizes are way, way too big. We'll talk about the numbers in the near future, but you should look into it. Even before you added these new positions, according to the ASD website, more than 140 positions remained unfilled. As of this evening, that includes 58 elementary classroom positions. 58 elementary classroom positions. When did elementary become hard to fill? Here is your dilemma. You add more teaching positions, but don't increase compensation. Those jobs stay unfilled. But if you improve compensation, you may not be able to add additional positions. The outcome remains the same. The simple truth is only with better compensation will you be able to fill all your positions. Only with better compensation will you slow down the enormous number of resignations year after year. Do not fail to act. You have the resources. People across Alaska have been clear. Parents, community members, legislators, and even the governor have all said the same thing. Increased public education funding should go directly into classrooms. Governor Dunleavy said the classroom is where we can add the most value. Representative McCabe said lawmakers should put more money into classrooms instead of bureaucracies. I am confident you will act in a way that answers the call for every Alaskan. Remember, your educators are showing up every day for their students without a contract. They haven't given up. They haven't given up on their students. They show up to support them. They haven't given up on you. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Our last speaker tonight is William Baxter. Welcome, sir. You have 3 minutes. Please begin when you're ready.
I'm William Baxter, and people talk to me about agriculture all the time. There's a lot of people in this town that's been in 4-H, FFA, and you'd be surprised how many people I find that have agriculture degrees in Anchorage, and that's if you really are serious about putting FFA in the schools, I suggest you do a survey of the schools have been in 4-H, FFA, or even got degrees, or even had classes in college. And another thing is, one of the things I really like about FFA is they got uniforms. And I really think that this Anchorage School District should go to uniforms. And, there's a lot of reasons I believe is because I'm a Christian. And also I see that as a Christian, I see that as a possibility. And, there's a lot of other reasons why when I was a kid down in Utah, I remember the girls in elementary school and junior high and high school wearing dresses. Up here, we don't wear dresses. I don't even know what it's like on the thing, but I think we should go to uniforms. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. That completes our public testimony this evening. We want to thank every testifier for making time to connect with us. And just a reminder for the public who can choose to testify at any time by emailing schoolboard@asdk12.org. All right, we'll move on to section E, consent agenda. Board members, we have a consent agenda that's been prepared in front of us. Does any board member wish to pull an item for discussion before we move to approve? Hearing and seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as drafted?
Move to approve the consent agenda as drafted.
Made by member Holloman, seconded by member Wilson. There's no discussion. Ms. Sullivan, the roll call vote, please.
Student Representative Madison?
Yes.
Yes.
Member Holloman?
Yes.
Member Bellamy?
Yes.
Member Lessons?
Yes.
Member Wilson?
Yes.
Member Higgins? President Jacobs?
Yes. Our consent agenda is adopted by a vote of 7-0. All right, we'll move on to action items. Our first item is ASD memorandum number 017. Is there a motion?
I move that we adopt ASD memorandum 017, approval of transfer to student nutrition, transportation, and capital projects.
Second.
That we approve the motion.
For our record, Member Holloman, I'll confirm you intend to move that we approve a $14,124,792 transfer to cover overages and transportation, unpaid and shelf-stable meals for student nutrition, and to transfer FEMA funds to capital projects for the FY 24-25 school year. Is that correct?
That's correct. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, that's what was made by Member Holloman, seconded by Member Wilson. Is there discussion on this item? Hearing, seeing none. Ms. Sullivan, the roll call vote, please.
Student Representative Madison,
Yes.
Member Holloman,
Yes.
Member Lessons,
Yes.
Member Donley,
Yes.
Member Bellamy,
Yes.
Member Wilson,
Yes.
Member Higgins, President Jacobs,
Yes. ASD memorandum number 017 is approved by a vote of 7-0. Right. Our action item F2 is ASD memorandum number 039. A motion to approve in this case would be to authorize the award of a contract for 4 Class 8 International, potentially B International, HV607, a dump truck cab and chassis to RWC International Ltd through the Sourcewell Purchasing Cooperative for $698,160.77, utilizing cooperative purchasing per BP 3311 AR 3311.1D, titled Intergovernmental Relations. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Made by Member Holloman, seconded by Member Wilson. Is there discussion on this item? Hearing and seeing none. Ms. Sullivan, roll call vote, please.
Student Representative Madison,
Yes.
Member Wilson,
Yes.
Member Higgins, Member Donley,
Yes.
Member Holloman,
Yes.
Member Lessons,
Yes.
Member Bellamy,
Yes.
President Jacobs,
Yes. AST memorandum number 039 is adopted by a vote of 7-0. Our last action item tonight is AST memorandum number 047 FY 25-26 budget revision. A motion to approve in this case would be to approve a revision to the general fund budget in the amount of $6,292,444 to allocate the remaining funds approved by the state and increasing the total general fund budget to $644,431,046 with an overall upper limit spending authority of $916,062,173. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Made by Member Holloman, seconded by Member Wilson. Is there discussion on this memorandum?
Could we have a brief at ease?
Sure, we'll have a 5-minute at ease. All right, thank you, everyone. We'll call ourselves back to order at 6:58 p.m. Is there discussion on ASD memorandum number 047? Member Donnelly, then Lessons.
Thank you. I'd really like to learn more about the teacher recruitment and retention um, budget line item here for $2 million. Sounds in the description that's provided, it sounds reasonable, but it doesn't really sound very specific either.
Yeah. Dr. Bryant.
Yeah, Mr. President, through the President, Member Donnelly, great question. And you're correct. It's intentionally vague because the idea is for the first time, we want to leverage this really fortunate circumstance where the legislature approved the override of the governor's veto, resulting in a $10 million additional funding for ASD. And actually ask educators, like, how do you think we can leverage these dollars to improve the recruitment and retention of teachers? So it's twofold. And just to kind of zoom out for the community, so for the past year, the school board had a wonderful idea to convene our educators in a joint task force where we're specifically talking about ways to recruit and retain our employees. I've been really blessed to have attended, I think, all but one of the meetings throughout the year alongside Mr. Lang and formerly President Holloman and others, and it's been great. And we have a really nice space where we can just share ideas. And I want to humbly ask our teachers if it's our role to make sure that we recruit and retain as many excellent teachers as possible, what can we do with very limited resources to do it? So that was really the impetus behind allocating approximately $2 million. And we're trying to do two different things at once. So one, I want to figure out what are some things that we can do for the system as a whole. So for example, maybe this group will recommend that we need more holdback teachers to address class size bubbles. That's reasonable. But I also want to get their feedback on things like the Accelerator Project, which we talk about in the memo. And for those of you that didn't read the memo, the Accelerator Project is something that I'm excited to talk more about in the coming months, where in ASD we have, about 94 different buildings. And what we want to do is use data to figure out which are the, let's say, 5 to 10 schools that need the most support based off of data for a number of different metrics. And then looking at that smaller portfolio of, let's say, 5 schools, what can we do to create genuine proof points for how to improve teacher retention, but also ensure that there are better systems in place? Like, for example, I would imagine many of these schools will be Title I schools if we identified a very small subset of schools to target. And I'm wondering, what can we do to, one, attract the best teachers, whether they're in the district in a different school that we recruit into that building, or they're external that we want to recruit, let's say with, one idea the committee could come up with is referral bonuses or some sort of incentive to get out-of-state teachers to come to Alaska. These are all the different types of discussions that we would brainstorm collectively. So I think that this is a really innovative way to hear directly from educators, what can we do to tackle this huge issue? And thankfully we meet, several times a semester, and I want to get that work started as soon as possible. So that's why there's not specific projects there, because I want to develop them in partnership with teachers. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you, Member Donnelly. Thank you, Dr. Bryant. Member Lessons.
Thank you. I feel like we sort of danced around this a bit earlier during the work session. Between the memo at the previous board meeting, which allocated 20 additional positions, and this memo, which would allocate 27 positions, that's 47 new positions. And my question is, does that actually have the effect of lowering our pupil teacher ratios by, 1, by 0.5, or is that really a hard question to answer because these positions are being simply dosed in the highest need locations to mitigate class size bubbles and split classrooms? I guess I'm trying to understand how, plus 47 teachers changes our overall pupil teacher ratios, which did experience a +1 on the K-12 system. And I guess the related question would be, are we seeing these positions being dosed, for lack of a better word, at elementary and secondary, or concentrated in one division?
Yeah, and I may ask for backup from Mr. Lang or Mr. Gustafson on this one, but at a high level, it sounds like the question is how would these roles make an impact on PTR? So essentially, the issue with PTR is it treats all students like they're marbles in a jar, and it doesn't account for real things that happen in school. So, for example, I noticed this year that there seems to be bubbles specifically in fourth and fifth grade, and there are numerous reasons why that may happen, but that's something that may not be addressed by a PTR formula that literally looks at the ratio of kids to teachers in the district and assigns them on a school level. This holdback strategy that we're using allows us to be more precise with where we deliver these resources. So, for example, let's say an immersion program was staffed adequately, but for reasons, various reasons that are beyond the scope of this conversation, they have one classroom that's, let's say, 35. That's an area where these holdbacks is what we call them internally, but they're classroom teacher positions that we give to the school that, from the parent perspective, does decrease their class sizes. So, from the board level perspective, we're looking at the PTR, which is fixed in our budget book. But the way that I think about these holdbacks, it's really at the classroom, parent perspective. So when we hear from these parents that say, I'm in a classroom with, 36 kids, this is unacceptable for my kid. Now we finally have that flexibility to offer that relief, regardless of what the PTR was at that school. And to answer your question, member lessons, as to how are we targeting these resources, there is a method to that. And Mr. Gustafson and the team look at a number of very objective criteria, which would include the size of the class and other metrics that the board should know, Mr. Gustafson?
So we look at the size of the class, the bubbles, the history, the enrollment of what that school is actually coming in with verified registrations. We're really the big thing, and to answer the second part of your question around elementary versus secondary, 80% of the holdbacks that we've given out so far this year have been at the elementary level because of there are literally big bubbles in different schools right now that we're trying to alleviate. And sometimes they're even, when they show up, there's a class of like 40 in a elementary school. So we have to, different people have moved into neighborhoods. They've come and registered in the different schools. So we have to fix those. This has been able to allow us that flexibility where in years past, we had to pull teachers out of one school and put in others. Now, I'm not saying we're not going to have to do that this year yet, because we usually wait till after kindergarten gets situated, which is this Thursday, and starts showing up. And next week, we'll have things a little more solid. The one thing I will say is that when the demographers give out a projection for the number of students that are going to be coming to our school district, we keep track every single day. So every day, every evening, I get a report. A number of us get the same report of how many students in each school have registered and what is the percentage overall. And right now, we are trending at a higher level of percentage of students that have actually registered in class, sitting in seats, than we have in the last 3 years. And it's just a percentage point or two, but when you have 42,000 students, a percentage or two is a pretty big number of students, right? We look at a whole number of things. Our principal supervisors are constantly talking to the principals and seeing where they're at and looking at the numbers and really looking at the specific class sizes. And as you've seen probably in the last week or so, I've responded to some parents that we'd already dealt with some of the issues before they even brought up concerns to you all.
Thank you, Mr. Gustafson. Do you have a follow-up, member lessons?
Yeah, so speaking, I guess clearly and plainly, if I were one of the legislators who voted to override and I really wanted to know that my vote, made a difference, would the administration agree that class sizes are being lowered and split classes, right? 3-4 combos are being mitigated through allocation of the 20 positions 2 weeks ago and the 27 positions sort of on the
on a
table?
very simple answer, I'd say yes.
Okay, so class sizes are getting
yes.
decreased.
Class sizes are getting, I can't promise they're in every single spot right now, but we have been looking at, that's all we do almost all day long right now, is looking at those class sizes and making sure if we can give some support to classes. And this year, one thing that's come up is our secondary schools haven't had the increase, the registration is as dramatic as the elementary has. So they have had less need so far, but we're still looking. We haven't used we haven't allocated all of them yet, because we are waiting through this next week to see where everybody sits. But as we find out things, we're on it as quick as we possibly can.
Mr. President, one additional follow-up.
Yeah, member.
Yeah.
Okay. Member Lessons, follow up.
Thank you. And I guess this is just sort of adding to the tally. I know with our budget revisions back in the spring, we added something like 26 holdback teachers back to our budget. So, can we assume that we've essentially got whatever 26 plus 20 plus 27? So that's a few dozen teachers being deployed, really being triaged right now into the most acute areas of need across our district?
If I can just answer on a simple basis, we had at the beginning, those first ones that you allocated, a number of those went right away because we needed a lot of specialists at elementary level. And so a lot of those were used up before you gave us or approved those last 20. So those even happened during the staffing pieces in the spring. So we didn't have a lot going into the actual school year. It was in the single digits for sure.
Okay, sorry. So that's actually really helpful for me to understand, which makes the action even more important because we used up our holdback positions and we needed a new pool essentially of holdback teachers to address the situations as they arose.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Member Lessons. All right, other discussion from the board? Hearing and seeing none, Member Donnelly.
Sven, could you just restate our current vacancy rate? I don't know what's a proper terminology for it, but of certified instructors and classroom also assistants that we talked about in the work session.
Yeah, Member Donnelly, we have, as of the first day of school, which is when we kind of do a real close measure of that, of our certificated openings, we started the year with 122 certificated vacancies, and that's across all divisions. That would include related services, nurses, classroom teachers, all those certificated positions rolled together. As for paraprofessionals, right now we're hovering right around 100 vacancies. And that's down almost 70 from where we opened the year last year. So that really has been an area where we've seen a lot more applicants and we're filling a lot more positions.
Member Donnelly, have a follow-up?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted that on the record because that was in our work session. I think it directly relates to this investment in recruitment and retention.
Agreed. Thank you, Member Donnelly. Hearing and seeing no other Member Lessons.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the chance to look at the many excellent points that are presented for the board's consideration in the memo. I did want to bring up the high dose tutoring component, which I thought was critical. It was one of the things that I was most hopeful for sort of earlier in our budget process back in February. It had to be taken off the table to match reality, and I'm pleased to see that a smaller version of it has been reincorporated here. I think my question is twofold. Number one, what grades would be eligible for high dose tutoring, knowing that we have many readers who need to learn to read by third grade, and we have many more who maybe haven't gotten all the foundational skills and they're off in grades 4 through 12. And so what grades would be eligible for high dose tutoring? And just, with $500,000 in change, and if this is an online sort of high dose tutoring method, how many students roughly could receive access to these tutoring sessions? I could make guesses, but that's probably not helpful.
So Member Lessons, we had our teaching and learning department go in and really look at all the different options around high dose tutoring. They came to us with a number of different options. And what we came away with was what I consider probably a system that we could stand up this year rather quickly. It would allow for 500 students to have high dose tutoring in each of 2 different semesters. So it could be the same 500 all year. It could be 500 and 500. We would be targeting tier 3 kids that need those supports, especially, we're looking at school board goals, and the reading component would definitely be our K3 kiddos first to begin with, and then we would probably branch out from there. Nicole Somerville, our director of elementary teaching and learning, is very up to date on the high dose tutoring stuff, and we actually utilize some of this during summer school for our kids around the READS Act. So we have some experience working with it. I can't say for certain if it's the same exact program that we were using. I don't have that information right now, but I do know that it's 500 kids per semester, and we would definitely be working towards our tier 3 students. And I believe there is 3 options we can pick from in that specific deal. So we once the money's approved, then we're on it, moving, going, looking, working, trying to implement it.
Thank you for that. It's helpful to know that we've got essentially 1,000 seats over the course of the year for students who can be positively impacted through a proven method that's been implemented in many other locations that we have yet to have the opportunity to do. So I'm excited about it, but I'd put in a personal plug that maybe there are some students in grades 4 through 12 who really could help, master their foundational skills, and that's going to help them cross the finish line when it comes to our graduation goal. But that's just me.
I would agree with you on that, and I would say that we need to start small to grow big, and we want to make sure we develop a system that's going to be successful for kids and is sustainable over time, and then we'll probably be coming back if it works more often for this.
Thank you, Mr. Gustafson. Thank you, Ms. Lessons. Hearing and seeing no other discussion, Ms. Sullivan, the vote, please.
Student Representative Madison,
Yes.
Member Higgins, Member Donley,
Yes.
Member Lessons,
Yes.
Member Wilson,
Yes.
Member Bellamy,
Yes.
Member Holloman,
Yes.
President Jacobs.
Yes. ASD Memorandum number 046 is adopted by a vote of 7-0. Thank you, everyone. That completes our action agenda for tonight. Item G is our non-action items. These will be in front of us for action in our first meeting in September. Is there a board member who wishes to discuss a non-action item this evening? Member Lessons.
Memo 018, please.
Is there another board member who wishes to discuss a non-action item? Hearing and seeing none. Member Lessons, you wish to discuss item 018, approval of ASD calendars for years 26-27, 27-28, and 28-29. The floor is yours.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity. I want to maybe begin by acknowledging the complexity of the work. I recall, there were surveys that went out and clarifying communications about those surveys over the past winter, and I really can only begin to imagine what happens when you get all of the people in a room trying to talk about calendars for not just 1, not 2, but 3 years running. So with an acknowledgement of that complexity, the one item that gives me pause, understanding all of the constraints that we have, remains the staggered start day for the first day of school. And I don't know whether any data exists on the district side of things for how effective it was last year. It continues to strike me that I think it's a really well-intentioned idea to support entering middle schoolers and entering high schoolers, but I worry that the cumulative, the net is, I believe that it is damaging to students' morale who don't get to start on the first day of school. 7th and 8th graders don't get to start on the first day of school. 10th, 11th, and 12th graders don't get to start on the first day of school. Perhaps there's some negative effect on the economy with, parents who are not working on that first day of school. I ran into some around town on that Thursday, and they were headed to do something else with their day. So guess could the administration talk about the staggered first day of school a little bit, and whether there were any conversations about, I mean, it's been incorporated into the calendar proposal for the next 3 years. I guess I'm interested in hearing from the administration. I know that I believe the superintendent believes in this structure, but it still gives me a great deal of pause.
Thank you. Member Listens, would it be helpful if we provided some context in Board Connect and then prepare for a discussion next week on the staggered starts? And I'll reference it today in my remarks too.
I think that's fine.
Okay.
Simply, I wanted to raise it today as an area of possible conversation.
Thank you, Member Lessons. Member Higgins.
Yeah, I guess when we get to the school board calendars, I remember when school started right after Labor Day. And then it started moving earlier because that way you get better test results in the spring. And that was what I was told, and that was the purpose behind it. And I'm not sure that looking at the calendar now for that reason, I hate to, do it that way. It just questions the what works best. And did we move it back for really good reasons, or just for, Charlie the Tuna, we're going to try to look good, not necessarily be good, but we're going to look good type of approach. And so it bothers me a little bit that way. So the start date of this is something I, just for discussion purposes, I think would be appropriate.
Thank you, Member Higgins. Is there other discussion on this item? Member Wilson.
So I just wanted to clarify that the start times or start dates for 7th and 8th graders. That's a discussion we're going to have later because I have some feedback I wanted to share, but I can share that later.
Through the president. Yes, Member Wilson, I think it would be best if we covered all the calendar questions and we've had some time to collect the data, maybe collect some qualitative feedback from principals in response to the need for some additional assurance that these are a value add.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Member Wilson. Okay. Member Lessons, has your inquiry been satisfied for today?
Yes, this is the start of a conversation which will continue next time.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, that completes our non-action items section of our agenda. We have no continued public testimony for item H, so we'll move on to item I1, Superintendent Update. Dr. Bryant, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. So I'm going to change up the format a little bit today just because it's the first board meeting after the first day of school. So I'd like it to be a little bit more interactive. So first off, I would say that we had a strong start to school this past week, but don't take my word for it. I want you to see a quick video that spotlights the good stuff happening around ASD. I think we might be having some audio issues. And this is why I don't do videos for my superintendent updates, because of the tech stuff. But this one's worth it. Yeah.
We're here live at Service High School, home of the Cougars. This is the first day of school for the Aiken School District. Are you excited, nervous?
No.
Kind of.
It's what I've been saying all day here. Get involved. Have fun. School is fun when you're engaged and when you're doing things besides just academics, when you're with your peers doing activities. Get involved.
We're here. We got kids here. We got teachers here. Everyone's happy. So this year we are being resilient. and accountable and mindful.
This is all part of what we call PBIS, and
Yes.
it's called positive behavior
Intervention supports.
Yes. It's a big deal because it's happening district-wide. It doesn't matter if it's elementary, middle, and high school.
Yeah.
And why is it a big deal that it's like reinforced, starting at a young age, but also in middle and also in high school?
Right. Well, it's those school-wide expectations. It means everyone has the same language. All students know what's expected of them, no matter where they are. If they're in your classroom or if they are on the playground or in the library, they know exactly what to do. They know exactly what their expectations are and how to get help and support from the staff around them.
That's awesome. Welcome to ASD Shine Bright, the podcast. We're doing a special back to school edition. This is the first week of school for the 2025-2026 school year. We're here at Chugiak High School, home of the Mustangs. Go Mustangs. I even have the color. This was by accident, honestly, but it works out, right? It's one of the colors. I'm joined here by Miss Susie Bick. She's a teacher. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Tell me what you teach.
I am a special education teacher here at Chugiak High School.
And then this is your 7th year?
7th year.
I wonder who this guy is. He's actually pretty famous in his own world, but I'll let you introduce him because you have a special connection to him as well.
Mr. Sean Prince actually was my teacher in high school in student government when I went to Bartlett High School back in the day.
It's good. It's so nice to see like your former students doing great things, and it's fun to watch. You know, Susie and I are catching up and just trying not to date ourselves too much by how much time has expired between when she was my student and now. But man, it's so great to see the good things she's doing here at Chugiak.
All right, so it looks like we had a wonderful video from our media team. Thank you for that. So we're going to transition a little bit from the video. I wanted you to see a quick snapshot of everything going on in the district. This is my 4th back to school with the Anchorage School District, and I think that this is one of the best starts yet. I'm blessed to be surrounded by wonderful colleagues here at this dais and also wonderful staff members and families who continue to choose ASD. So I want to walk us through the first few days through my perspective, through some of my visits and my reflections. And you'll notice the first picture. First of all, we have school buses, and that is not lost on me because it was 3 years ago that not just ASD, but Matsu and a lot of other folks were having issues with buses. And I want to thank the community for coming together. I want to thank the board for allowing us 3 years ago to take some action that has put us in a much better position. So not only are buses back, they are bigger and better than ever. Not the buses themselves, but we've installed this wonderful tool called Stop Finder. So we released that to the public recently. We've had thousands of parents already sign up to join. If you don't know what Stop Finder is, it's a really cool tool that allows parents to know where their bus is when it picks up and drops off their student. Really neat. We've really taken it to the next level. So I'm really thankful for Jim Anderson's team and all of our parents that trust our wonderful transportation professionals through summer, through winter, to make sure our students get to school in a good state of mind. So thank you to our transportation professionals too. Let's go ahead and move on. So one of the first schools I visited was actually Kassoon Elementary School. And what you'll see in this picture is one of the project managers explaining to me the rollout of our secure safety vestibules throughout the district. So we've installed dozens throughout our elementary schools over the years, and this is a new one that's good to go at Kassoon Elementary School. And this is only possible due to the support of the Anchorage community. This past April, we passed a $62 million bond, and we were very fortunate to have another bond the year before that. And this is what it's going towards. Those funds are going towards upgrading the security of our schools. We've had situations where secure vestibules have saved lives in this district, and I want to make sure that they're in as many elementary schools as possible moving forward. So the work continues. In fact, I think this particular bond will fund projects at Scenic Park, Baxter, and Ravenwood into next year. So very soon we'll have vestibules in all the elementary schools. Now, that said, when it comes to safety and security, you have to have a lot of tools in the toolbox. Secure safety vestibules are one tool in the toolbox, but I also want to remind the public that ASD recently moved to a standardized visitor management system. That's really important because one, we make sure that all of our visitors are centrally screened and background checked, and two, we can look at reports across the district. And this is something that we weren't able to do 3 years ago, but we're able to do today. So, and then in addition to the secure vestibules and the visitor management, because of our successful bond propositions, we now have upgrades to various cameras and other security features such as access management throughout the district. And it's really putting us on the cutting edge of where we need to be when it comes to safety in our schools. Training is also key, right? We can't anticipate every single scenario that happens in a school situation, but I'm really thankful that through Jim Anderson's leadership, we've had one of the first interagency trainings on emergency response that we've had in a very long time, at least 5+ years. And I mean, this is ASD with the city, with all the emergency management personnel, and they are literally walking through some of the worst scenarios that can ever happen in a school. And I'm very thankful that they're having those difficult conversations because all of these tools and more is what's helping us make our schools as safe as possible. Something you might have also read is that we have a mobile metal detector program. This is meant to be proactive. Let's say that a school is alerted about a potential threat the next day. A mobile metal detector means that we're able to deploy resources to prevent incidents from happening in our schools. They're not permanently affixed to any school. Once the situation's cleared, we can move the metal detectors on to a different location. But this is yet another tool that we have in our toolbox to change behaviors and to make sure that ASD is positioned as a very safe school for all of our families to attend. We want to make sure parents have that confidence. And some of that conversation happened at Cassoon on my first day of school. Let's go ahead and move on. So the next place I visited was, this is also Cassoon, and in addition to the security and safety, I wanted to go into specific classrooms because I'm really proud of our teachers and our families because we've put a lot of hard work into reading. And it's not lost on me that for 2 years in a row, our first graders have seen growth from their kindergarten year. Last year, we reported a 10% growth based off of our M-Class Dibbles data. And this year, we saw an 11% gain. So that's 2 classes of students that have been positively impacted because of the hard work of teachers like the one in this photo. And by the way, when we make class engaging by dressing up like Minnie Mouse or other characters every now and then, it really takes us a little bit farther and makes that first day all the more special. So I want to thank our educators at Cassoon Elementary. Just a few more schools. I then went to Baxter Elementary. And I want to park on this photo for a moment because it's a very, this was a very, this is a really tough conversation that I had with the principal. One, I love our new principal at Baxter Elementary. As you know, this is Principal Sherry Galloway, who I was really blessed to recruit into Baxter. She was previously, on the south side of town, and she really is coming back home and supporting a community that's near and dear to her heart. It's her neighborhood. And I'm very proud that we have one of our most experienced principals in the district leading a school that I think needs a lot of help. Based off of the data and based off of the community needs, we need to make sure that there are great resources and great leaders and educators in a school like Baxter. So it was really a blessing to walk through the halls of Miss Galloway and her talking through everything she's seeing. And one of the things, the elephant in the room, is that Baxter Elementary is actually one of the sites where Nunaka Valley was consolidated into. So there are dozens of students in this building that previously attended a different elementary school. So think about it through the perspective of Miss Galloway and her teachers. We know that students are entering our community and they may not know who their teachers are. They may be concerned that their drive to school is a little farther. This is a really tough time. And that said, we realized when we started this journey 3 years ago, when we made the difficult decision to close Abbott Loop, that you can recognize the legacy and history that makes our neighborhood schools great. But you can also realize that by making changes, we can celebrate a memory. So this photo, let me get to what the photo is. This is a wall that celebrates the history of Nunaka Valley Elementary. And Miss Galloway is very proud to display this in her building because she doesn't want her students to forget about the wonderful memories at that school. She wants to make sure that the legacy and history of the school is alive for decades to come. So as we get more artifacts from Nunaca Valley, I'd love to add more to that wall. But we had a great discussion about how through her lens as a leader, she knows that she needs to go above and beyond to make her students feel extra welcome in her school. And I'm really blessed that in the next photo, you'll see that I went to the cafeteria because I wanted to see how all of our students are acclimating to their environment, but especially our Nunaca Valley students. And I was really pleased to see that our Nunaca Valley kiddos have friends who were Baxter students the previous year. And they also have friends from Nunaca Valley that are with them today. And that's because when we made the decision to close Abbott Loop, we realized that we can adjust our portfolio of infrastructure, but keep our history and memories alive and also help students be more successful. It wasn't easy to make a decision to right size any building, but because of our decision, I think that we've set up Baxter for success for the years to come. I couldn't help but look at some of the data. So Baxter currently has 327 students enrolled as of yesterday. Last year they had 239, and previously their low watermark was about 205 students. And the thing about enrollment is that when you have a PTR system like we have, lowering enrollment means that over time, some of your highest need schools will have less and less resources. So a school like Baxter might have lost teachers over the years. They might have lost an elective. But now that we've restored their enrollment, we're able to offer more resources to students that need it the most. So as difficult as it was to go through this process for multiple years, I'm so glad to see that our Nunaca Valley students are getting acclimated. And it's not a coincidence. Remember that when we closed Abbott Loop, we wanted to just start with one school so we could make sure that we transitioned with compassion and with empathy. We wanted to make sure that our students visited their new school multiple times, even before they're a student. We wanted to make sure that the students know they know who their friends are that will be transitioning them to the school. We wanted nice handoffs between outgoing principal and new principal, and we were able to put in some other features too to make this as seamless as it possibly can when this is one of the most emotional things that can happen in a community. So I was really moved in a very positive way by what I saw at Nunaca Valley. This is one of our nutrition services staff members. There was no Cheez-Its at Baxter Elementary. It was Burger Day actually, and the burgers look pretty good. And I just thank the Baxter community and our Nunaca Valley families for walking alongside of us during what was surely a very emotional time. And I'm glad that I spent quite a bit of time at Baxter. This transition is very important to me. So then on the flip side of it, I spent some time at ANCCS. And one of the things that stood out to me was this picture. As you walk in, you'll see that Mrs. Sweetser and her team have done a great job at making this facility their own. So when you walk in, you'll see in the picture, it says at the top, show respect to others. And that's because it's one of the 9 core values that are central to the mission of ANCCS. So I was really brightened to see that. And you can see other great values listed throughout that hallway that students see every single day on their way to school. And then let's go on to the next photo, because I had a really special opportunity to, one, greet the entire school. You can't see what this room is. It's the cafeteria. It's a very large facility, and we're talking about the formerly Lake Hood facility. ANCCS is larger than it's ever been, and I was blessed to see that all of those students fit very well in that cafeteria. So now Mrs. Sweetser every day can do morning assemblies where, for what I witnessed, was 30 minutes of students feeling welcomed, feeling a sense of belonging, feeling a sense of cultural responsiveness, and really feeling seen and heard by their teachers. So it was a really powerful moment. The least interesting part was me welcoming them to the space. The most important parts were when their families and their teachers spent the time to really connect what they're learning to their culture and values and mission of that school. It was a really powerful thing. And there was a time not too long ago when these students were in a hallway in East High School. So to see how far they've come, thriving in this big school, larger than they've ever been before, the world's their oyster. They have room for even many more students as we continue to get the word out and think about ways to make transportation to our choice programs more accessible, which is a huge work in progress. And I just want to briefly talk about this photo. It's kind of fun. I was in a trust circle with our students. And before I forget to mention this, so you'll see that I'm outside the circle, but about 2 minutes after this photo was taken, they rearranged the tables and invited me in the circle because every single one of us needed needed to reflect on our summers and how important family is to us and how it makes us stronger and better learners. So it was nice joining the circle right alongside Mrs. Sweetser, who makes this a practice in every single classroom to make sure our students in the school feel a sense of belonging in a school that's really designed to elevate the importance of their culture, not just within Anchorage, but within this entire country. Really beautiful thing. So then I had to make it out to Eagle River, and this is great. It was a pleasure to drive all the way out to Eagle River, and I wanted to personally shake the hand of Mr. Helvey. He's in the next photo that we can look at, because you may not know this if you're listening online, but Eagle River is one of our top performing advanced placement schools, so they consistently get a national recognition known as the AP Honor Roll. So I looked at some data with our principal, and I want to share it with the community. Basically getting the AP honor roll means that most of your AP students pass the exam. So last year, a year ago, back in 2024, 76% of advanced placement students at Eagle River passed their exam, 76%. So 7 in 10 students in AP, they're passing their test. That is phenomenal. Most schools would think, being in the teens is a big win, and that is, but 76 is phenomenal. But here's the kicker. That was 2024. So in 2024, it was 76%, 2025, 89%. That's huge growth. That means 89% of the AP kids at Eagle River are getting AP credit. Why is that important? Because every AP exam that you pass is literally the equivalent of a college credit. So if you're an ASD and your high school has dozens of AP classes, you can literally earn the equivalent of an associate's degree for free in the Anchorage School District. And at Eagle River High School, those kids have what it takes to do it. And it's not just at Eagle River. I brought this up because I was curious about data for AP in general. And since I think 4 years ago, AP enrollment, since 2022, AP enrollment has increased by 750 students in ASD. 750 more students are in advanced placement classes in the Anchorage School District than there were 3 years ago. And on top of that, many people would wonder, oh, were those just the high flyer students with parents that really want them to be in college prep courses? I'm sure there's some of that, but you'd also be pleased to know that there was a 42% increase amongst our economically disadvantaged and students of color. That's phenomenal. That's hundreds of more students that are on track as a result of the leadership of our team and the courage of our parents and students to push themselves to thrive in AP. So the sky's the limit when it comes to AP. So then I'll just quickly mention that I was at Greening, and it was nice because this reminded me why it was so important that we offered the opportunity for 6th graders to be in a middle school environment. This is actually a current technical education lab that is now an opportunity that's unlocked for our 6th graders. So, 3 years ago, if you were in an elementary school that served 6th grade, being in a hands-on class like this, and this gentleman has been teaching CTE for, I think, over 15, if not 20 years. He's one of our most experienced educators in the district, and I probably spent 40 minutes with this gentleman learning everything there is to know about all the different tools in his shop. And our 6th graders are so lucky to have access to this class, as well as everybody else at Greening, who's blessed to be in the presence of that gentleman. So really great visit. And it really ignited to me the importance of things like King Tech High School. That's where I went to next, because it really brought to life to me what this is all about. It's about college and career opportunity. And a lot of people, a lot of parents I talk to, they love King Tech in theory, but they do worry about their student being kind of tracked into a profession, and maybe that's not that's the profession for them. What if they change their mind? So I was really pleased that in this photo, you'll see a lot of students touring one of the, it was I forget what type of facility it was exactly, but it's a CTE class. But the point is that those students in the photo, they're actually not enrolled in that class. They're just engaging in a tour of different pathways that is not their class. So it's really cool. It's a very low pressure way to learn about different careers and pathways that they wouldn't know otherwise. So if you're thinking about a school like King Tech, but you're worried that your student will be exposed to a lot of different things, our wonderful new principal, Principal Edwards, has really designed the flow of the program well, to where that's not an issue, and those kids are having a wonderful experience. And then before I move on to West High School, I do want to remind the community that CTE is really important because the data is clear. Students that complete a core set of CTE classes they graduate at rates of 94%. The district's graduation rate is about 80%. So it's very interesting that students that commit to completing a career and technical education sequence really find their footing and graduate at a very significantly higher rate than some other students. So that dovetailed with the advanced placement means that we're in a very good position for our career and life readiness goal and college goal. So then we start to West High School, and this is where I'll close. We talked a little bit about staggered starts. That's what I wanted to see in person too. So you'll see in this photo, it's our freshmen getting the VIP treatment. Here's the thing that I want to share with the community from my perspective as somebody that taught ninth grade students. It is a tough time for a student. They're 14 years old. You have your sweet 16s around the corner. You're going through a lot of changes. And it shocks kids that when you're in high school, it's for real. It's game on. We're talking college transcripts. We're talking credits. We're talking about all sorts of things that were not exposed to them before. So it's really nice to take ninth graders who don't have any sort of, I guess, point of reference for what's about to happen and be welcomed like a VIP by their cheerleaders and welcoming teachers who really made them feel like the rock stars of the day. Because the thing is that when it comes to high school, you have to start slow to go far. If you're stressed out about how to use like a locker, or if you're stressed out about, how to go to more classes than you had in middle school, it can stress you out and hold you back from engaging in the learning. And I'm really pleased to see that when I was in a high school on the second day of school for ninth graders, they were already in high gear learning based off of what I saw. So it was really neat. This is one of those ninth graders. I mean, this is kind of where it's all at. Really proud of this ninth grader who felt welcome at the school. Shortly after this photo was taken, I got to see an assembly led by our wonderful team at West High School. And then shortly after that, I visited our sixth graders at Romig Middle School just to see, is this staggered start adding value? And I would say from the qualitative perspective, yes. But I also am very curious that last year's ninth graders, 5 points more of them are on track to graduate than the year before. So for those of you that are not tracking this, the school board created a goal on graduation rates, and then I, in response, created an interim goal to measure the percent of ninth graders that are on track to graduate from high school, the percent of 10th and 11th graders that are on track to graduate. So it's very interesting when we started launching, doubling down on CTE and advanced placement and all these other great things that we have going on, including staggered starts, that on track to graduation rates for ninth graders increased 5 points. If we keep up that momentum, that means that our graduation rates for 12th graders can increase by 5 points. And I've done the math. We're not talking about a lot of kids when it comes from going to 81% to 90%. It's just hundreds of students. So if we can really tackle these students on the margin, us getting to 90% graduation rate is within reach. It's within reach of even some of our turns on this dais. It's so close. We just have to keep our eyes laser focused on the high impact things that are moving the needle. So we can debate whether or not it was staggered starts or it was academies or it was AP or just great teachers. But 5 points is significant, and I'm very proud of our freshman teachers. As a former one, it's not easy. It's God's work, but our kids are doing great. So with that said, I think I shared everything that was on my heart and mind. I'm really proud of our staff. I'm really proud of our community. We did have a strong start to school, but here's the bottom line. It's not a coincidence. The reason why this stuff is happening is because we have a community that adores our public schools, whatever it looks like, whether it's a correspondence school, whether it's a neighborhood school, whether it's a charter school. And our community members, through our school board members, have high expectations for the quality of public education in Alaska. And here in ASD, we're living up to that expectation. So let's keep up the great work, team. I'm so proud and blessed to be here for my first day of school with you guys. So that concludes my remarks, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bryant. Appreciate it. Are there comments or questions for the superintendent? All right, hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to school board and administration comments. We'll start on my left. Member Higgins, the floor is yours.
Not much in the way of comments. I appreciate the overview of what's going on in the schools right now from superintendent. Quite a bit. I appreciate all the staff that are on board. This has been a tough summer trying to get people here, not knowing what's going on and morale wise. And I just, we can do this year. Let's see if we can make something really great come out of it. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Higgins. Member Lessons.
Just wanted to say a quick note of gratitude to the superintendent for a very full first day, an excellent report of your very full first day, to the staff who worked tirelessly over the summer to adapt to many changing circumstances, to our community members who advocated ceaselessly for the resources our students need, and to our legislative partners for doing what needed to be done to take care of the children. So thank you all.
Thank you, Member Lessons. Member Donnelly.
I just want to thank the administration for prioritizing our classroom sizes, reducing our classroom sizes with the additional funding we got.
Thank you, Member Donnelly. Student Representative Madison.
Hi, thank you. I also do want to say I appreciate the community a lot, and I appreciate the support that not only this board has, but also the parents and other students that I know of as my peers who support our school district to still be as amazing as it is. I do have a few comments regarding some issues I'd like to provide with the student perspective. One of them being is, of course, we've talked about how the BSA has increased, and of course, class sizes are going to continue decreasing. But I will say, personally, at my school, I'll experience what that looks like and how I hope it continues to decrease in class sizes and that change does happen. I know in some of my own AP classes that we still have students that are about more than 32 in per class, and that's just in AP classes. So I don't know exactly what the numbers are for non-AP classes, knowing that AP classes are sort of limited in the amount of students that choose to take them. And in those classes that have more than 32 kids in there, like we physically don't have chairs for them to even sit in there. Like we're having to borrow from other classrooms. And so many students are concerned about it, and it does disrupt our learning. It does disrupt us when we have the second day of school and 10 more kids are transferred into our AP class where it's very focused on preparing for the exam. And so I'm very hopeful and that we'll be able to change that, but just providing a student perspective there, that is what it looks like right now. And I hope that the school district, as amazing as it is, can keep growing and changing from that issue to no longer be one that exists. I do also want to talk about how Dr. Bryant mentioned earlier Eagle River's AP score. Since I do go to Eagle River High School myself, I will say I think a lot of it is thankfully to the amazing teachers that we have. I think the way that they instruct us and support us is really beneficial to us. I know I've had a few teachers that are very lecture based and focused to their students, but the most important part I've seen at my school that helps us prepare for the exams better is actually engaging the students. For example, I know my history teacher is very huge on actually engaging the student and getting them personally involved in the lessons. And I know in every AP class I've taken at my school that has that amount of high engagement, whether it's using humor, whether it's using personal relations, whether it's actually finding a way to apply the lesson to the kid itself. All the APs that I've attended at Eagle River High School that involve that have prepared me for the exams more than I could ever need and has helped me succeed. And that's where I see a lot of my peers also succeeding a lot with that. And so I will add that note in of how I think our school succeeds a lot in our AP classes. Another thing I will want to bring up is the issue I've seen with nutrition in our schools, with school lunches. I know we didn't really talk about it this much in this meeting, but I do want to bring up maybe it can be discussed next time. I've noticed the way that we have our neighborhoods categorized into different schools that have, because you have your own schools that you are assigned to by the where you live, whether that's more of an economically disadvantaged neighborhood or more economically advantaged neighborhood that does qualify some students for free and reduced lunch, some students who don't qualify for that. But I have noticed that there have been a lot of mixed feelings on whether students feel it is equitable enough for them to be able to still afford their lunches, being that many of them still, even if they don't qualify for that free and reduced lunch, they still feel like they cannot afford or be able to get these lunches in a way that is a good quality and good service to them in terms of affordability. Because I know, for example, at my school, a lot of people would assume Eagle River High School is very well off. I mean, most of us are upper middle class. But I will say we have had statistics at our school, and from what I've last heard from a teacher themselves, from our school statistics, about 25% of students at our school are still economically disadvantaged. And I think that does bring a big perspective to our school district, because I think it's easy to assume that many neighborhoods can have students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, that it is still all right for them to be able to afford what they can. But I do think there could be more of an equitable solution there for other students as well, who maybe don't necessarily qualify, but also maybe they don't know if they qualify, or maybe they just don't qualify, and they also still cannot equitably afford these lunches in a way that does benefit them in their everyday lives. And so that's basically what I just wanted to cover. Those are a few issues I wanted to add student perspective to. But other than that, I thank this board and all of our communities for supporting us in every way they can. Thank you.
Thank you, Madison. Appreciate your comments. Member Wilson.
So I just wanted to start by saying I really appreciate the student voice on our board. You're an amazing example, as have been students prior to you, of the amazing students in our district. So just wanted to start with that. Also, summer was absolutely fast and furious for me. I assume it was fast and furious for many of us. Thank you to all of our staff for all of the work that you've put in to make this such a wonderful start to our school year for our students and families. I've heard really good feedback this year about from our staff, from our students, and from our families about what an amazing school year start it has been for them. So I know that's been a tremendous amount of work this summer to make that happen for the beginning of this school year. So thank you to everyone that for all of that work. And thank you to Dr. Bryant for making your way to so many of the schools and sharing about all so many of our programs and so many of our schools, and what an amazing start that they have all had. So I also wanted to say thank you to all of our school business partners, because I know that there have been lots of community members, lots of school business partners, organizations, businesses that have stepped up to help our students, to help our classrooms, our staff to start this school year. I know I greatly appreciate all of that work and all of those contributions as well. So thank you.
Member Holloman.
Thank you. I do want to comment that about 12 years ago, ASD received a grant focused on AP classes for schools that had a certain percentage of military family students in them, and it would have been Bartlett and Eagle River. I don't know if that grant program still exists. Provided professional development for teachers. It provided addenda for certain activities, provided actual stipends for students and study groups and different things. And if in fact that's part of the success, to me, that's something we should be able to turn around and go to the legislature and talk about specific funding for. It was all things that really supported AP classes in a meaningful way. And yeah, we do want to expand any kind of rigorous study for as many students as possible. I did get out Thursday to get to see some of what I call the retail side of education. And some of the remarks that I'd planned to make address Member Lesson's question about the staggered start. Because like you, I have heard from people that find it a little bit frustrating and confusing. It's not as simple as it used to be. And also, I say this as a former ninth grade teacher, where the most common phrase I heard in parent phone calls was, I don't know what happened. Everything was fine through the 8th grade. In ninth grade, things began to fall apart in a lot of ways. So I was observing the ninth grade day, and it's not really the first day of school. I'm not even sure if students got to their classrooms per se. But you do have the situation where it's busy, but it's not crowded because the upperclassmen aren't there in numbers. And there's still a lot of kids that need some help with their lockers. They need a class schedule. They need something, some technical thing so they know what to do on the next day of school. And with the numbers reduced, staff is just better able to address that. It was busy and kind of frenetic, but not nearly so much as if there had been hundreds of more students. in the hallway. I'll also say that when I was at Golden View, especially doing tech work where I was in and out of the building all summer, I would wind up talking to parents who would tell me about the angst their rising seventh graders had about coming to the building. And at the time, I say, well, I'll be there for so many hours tomorrow. If you want to, just stop by. And often they would, and their child would just walk around the building. We'd look inside an empty locker. We'd look inside classrooms. And the report back to me from parents was that just had an amazing impact on them being ready and losing some of that angst and concern and fright about the upcoming first day. So what I saw was a whole building staff focused on the ninth graders that were there with the help of a substantial number of junior and senior mentor students that were also there assisting. Everybody had color-coded T-shirts and lots of announcements about who to talk to, where to go. There was a scavenger hunt that put kids in teams to get them out all through the building and interact with, I think, all of the teachers at some point. Just a whole lot of things to really make them comfortable. And the sixth graders for middle school, the ninth graders for high school are the ones that have the highest levels of discomfort. Of course, you do have some new to the district students in the other grades too. I don't know of a good way to handle that exactly, but I saw things that really engaged a lot of kids and just gave them a much more stress-free start. And one of the theories in education is if you can get kids comfortable and connected earlier, you have more days where you can successfully teach and make that happen. So I do understand how it complicates life for families, but I would suspect that there is a big payoff. It sure looks like there's a dramatic payoff in terms of engaging our students in a really positive way. And I will say watching teachers teach is way more exciting and fun than talking about education and budgets and all that stuff. There's really in all of the stuff we do, we don't see the energy and the effort that so many of our staff put in a really strong way. It was just a very impressive thing to watch. The other thing I am stressing to the community councils that I meet with and other folks is that after the federal money was restored and after the governor's vetoes were overridden, as everybody on the board knows, the net result is we're funded about the same level as last year. And if you factor in inflation, we have a little less buying power. We have a few more actual dollars, but we're working with about the same number of resources as we had. And we'll shuffle and try to do things differently to make the outcome better. But it's not that we got a whole bunch more money, which is the impression that a fair number of people in the community have from the way it's all been presented. The BSA was increased by a historic amount, and most of the other outside the BSA funding went away to where it netted out at about where we were. So unfortunately, trying to drive down class sizes can't happen. And we do have some very high classes, a lot of senior high classes in the 40s, middle school classes in the high 30s and 40s, elementary classes in the high 20s and low 30s, something that the community is not really used to. Until we get some kind of significant actual increase per student, I don't know how we change that, but that is the ultimate goal, is to put that money in the classroom and change that experience, because for a whole lot of kids, it really is too many students for to be able to effectively teach. But I do think our staff was out there doing a fantastic job on the first day. It's hard to sustain that energy every day, and yet we see people that do it. If we can take some of the load off of them, they'll be able to do more of it. And I hope that's the goal for us and everybody in this building every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Holloman. I understand that Member Bellamy does not have comments tonight, so I'll just briefly add one other item, which I think Member Holloman touched on, that for the first time since I began serving on this board in 2021, we had a legislature, an assembly, an Anchorage mayor, and a school board all pointed in the same direction of supporting public education, not just with words, but with dollars. And I think we have seen, and we will continue to see the benefits of that for the start of the school year, which is amazing. But 1 year doesn't make a trend, and we're going to have to continue to advocate and educate and work with lawmakers and a new governor to continue improving our system of public education and to adequately maintain it. I think Senator Wilkowski was quoted in ADN within the last year of saying that they accomplished roughly 40% of what they set out to in terms of increasing the base student allocation. And we do have an uphill battle to educate the public as to how little of a fraction of the work remains complete at this point. So that, of course, is on us, and I'm looking forward to that challenge. Thank you, everyone. Good meeting. With that said, I think we had one comment from administration to clarify a question by Member Holloman. Is that correct, Mr. Lang?
Yes, the question was about the grant that we had 10 years ago. That was through the National Math Science Initiative, and they partner with private corporations often to find funding to apply their particular way of increasing AP enrollments in school districts. We got our funding through the Department of Defense. They funded the program for Bartlett and Eagle River High School. And that really, I think, opened a lot of our eyes to ways that we could reduce barriers for students to get into AP classes. And that set the foundation for us to partner with equal opportunity schools, which I really think underlies some of the increases that Dr. Bryant noted today that we've seen in both increased enrollment, more underserved students in AP classes, and higher passing percentages. So really, it is kind of a nod to something that started small but really has grown and in a sustainable way in the district, which is pretty cool.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. Seeing no other comments from administration or the board, would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Made by Holloman, seconded by Wilson. Seeing no opposition, we are adjourned at 8:05 p.m. Thank you, everyone.